Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week, and if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. For today's tutorial, we're making a cable stitch tube top dress, the perfect make for a night of fun or a flirty date night. Speaking of, by now y'all already know the drill, but just in case you're new, modern crochet tutorials and patterns are here with even more dropping twice weekly, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now, it's time to get on the show, so without further ado. For this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 385 grams of yarn. That's 775 yards if you're stateside. As for tools, a 5mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us a fictional death that you still haven't gotten over. Mine would be the Going Merry from One Piece. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 5 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, and treble crochet. This tutorial is made for a size small. You can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this dress started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Then we're all going to grab our 5mm hook and start off by making a chain that is in multiples of 8 plus 6 that reaches from mid-collarbone across our chest to mid-collarbone. Now I need roughly 7.5 inches or 19 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 30. Now that we have our chain, we're all going to do our first row, which is a half double crochet row. Start by blocking off that last chain and do a chain 2. That chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then yarn over, preparing for a half double. Into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, we're going to insert with 1 half double crochet, so pull through, yarn over, pull through 3. That is our first half double. From here, continue with 1 half double crochet into every chain. Our row 1 is complete. Now we're going to get started on our row 2, so chain 1 and flip. Now 1 single crochet into every stitch. So into that last stitch from our previous row, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, continue with 1 single crochet into every stitch. We are back. Our row 2 is complete. Now we're going to get started on row 3, so chain 2 and flip. Now everyone's going to start with our twist, and that's going to start with our dividing stitch, which is always a front post treble crochet. So we're going to yarn over twice. Every cable stitch row is going to be worked into our previous odd number row. So since we're working on row 3, we're going to be inserting our hook into our row 1. So finding the first half double crochet from our row 1, not counting that chain 2, we're going to bring our hook down, underneath the body of that stitch and through the other side. Then yarn over, pull through. From here, we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and that is our first front post treble crochet, which is always our dividing stitch. Now to do the actual twist detail, we're all going to yarn over twice. We're going to skip that following stitch from our row 1, then put 1 front post treble crochet into the following 2 stitches. So we're going to skip 1, like I said, into the next, insert your hook underneath the body of that stitch through the other side, and pull through. From here, yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. That's our first front post treble. Once more, yarn over twice, underneath the body of that following stitch from our row 1, bring your hook underneath, through the other side, pull through. From here, yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. Then we're going to work back into that 1 skip stitch with another front post treble, so yarn over twice. Back into that skip stitch, we're going to bring our hook back underneath the body and through the other side and pull through. From here, yarn over, pull through 2 until we have one loop left on our hook again. And now our twist detail is completed. Now we're always framing off our twist with our dividing stitch. So yarn over twice, that's always going to be a front post treble. And just into that following stitch from our row 1, bring our hook down, underneath the body of that stitch and through the other side, and pull through. From here again, yarn over and pull through 2 until we have one loop left on our hook. Now our dividing stitch, twist and dividing stitch is completed. Now we're all going to do our Alpine stitch detail, which is just going to be 1 half double, 1 front post double, 1 half double crochet. So we're all going to start by skipping 5 stitches from our previous row because we just took up a total of 5 stitches for our twist. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Into that following, insert with 1 half double crochet. Then to do a front post double, yarn over once. We're going to skip that following stitch from our row 1 because that half double crochet counts as that stitch. So underneath that following, we're going to insert our hook underneath, through the other side, pull through. When we have these 3 loops on our hook, we are going to pull up tall to get the same height as the half double crochet. Then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and that is our front post double. Now we have one more half double crochet to do, so we are going to skip 1 stitch from our previous row because this front post double counts as that stitch, then into the next with a half double crochet, and now our Alpine stitch detail is completed. Now from here, it is going to be a repeat of our twist and Alpine stitch detail to reach the end of the row, so let's do the twist together again. Like I said, the twist is always going to be framed off with our dividing stitch, which is always a front post treble crochet. So yarn over twice. For this row, we do want to make sure that we're skipping that following stitch from our row 1 because that half double crochet counts as that stitch. So underneath the body of that following with our dividing stitch, so insert, pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook, which is our dividing stitch. Then to do our twist, yarn over twice. Skip that following stitch from our row 1, then into the following and into the one right after that, another front post treble into each. So pull through 2, 2, 2, into that following with another front post treble, so pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. Then working back into that skip stitch, 1 front post treble crochet, back into there, so pull through 2, 2, 2. Now the twist portion is completed, so now we're going to do our dividing stitch, which is always a front post treble crochet. So yarn over twice, underneath that following stitch, bring our hook underneath, through the other side, pull through, and yarn over, pull through 2 until we have 1 loop left on our hook. And now our dividing stitch, twist dividing stitch is completed, so let's do another set of Alpine stitches. It's going to be the same as the previous one, so half double, front post double, half double. We're going to skip 5 stitches from our previous row, so counting from our last half double crochet, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, into the next with 1 half double crochet. Then a front post double, so yarn over, underneath that next stitch, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, then a half double, so yarn over, skip 1 stitch from our previous row, and into that next with 1 half double crochet. From here, it's going to be a repeat of our twist, Alpine stitch detail to reach the end of the row. Now the last set of stitches is going to be a twist, so go ahead and just make our way all the way down until we have just 1 stitch left. Then we're just going to half double crochet into that last stitch. So we've just made our way all the way down with our row 3. Our last set of stitches was our twist. We should all have just 1 stitch left. Now into that last stitch, we're just simply going to insert with a half double crochet just to make sure that everything is secured down. And now our row 3 is complete. And now our even number row is going to be a single crochet row. So chain 1 flip our work and 1 single crochet into every stitch. So we are back. Our row 4 is complete. Now we're going to do our row 5, so chain 2 and flip. Now when it comes to doing our cable stitch rows, our dividing stitch, twist dividing stitch will always be the same. So to do that, we're going to start with our front post treble crochet, same as our row 3. We're going to yarn over twice. Again, whenever we're working our cable stitch row, it will be worked into our previous odd number row. So since we're working on row 5, we're going to be inserting our hook into our row 3. So finding that first front post treble from our row 3, we're going to bring our hook underneath, through the other side, pull through, and continue to pull through 2 till we have 1 loop left on our hook. Then to do our twist, same as our previous twists, we're going to yarn over twice. Skip 1 stitch from our previous row, then 1 front post treble crochet into each of the following 2 stitches. So bring our hook down. Like I said, skip 1 into the next with 1 front post treble, underneath the following with another front post treble, then working back into that 1 skip stitch, another front post treble crochet. Now our twist is completed, so close this off with our dividing stitch, which is always a front post treble crochet. So now our dividing stitch, twist, dividing stitch is completed. Now to do our Alpine stitch detail. Now when it comes to doing the Alpine stitch detail, our stitches will be staggered from the previous Alpine stitch detail. So since this first stitch was a half double crochet, we're going to be working a front post double crochet into there. So yarn over once. Finding that first half double crochet from our previous Alpine stitch detail, we're going to insert underneath, through the other side, yarn over, pull through. When we have these 3 loops on our hook, pull up tall, then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Everyone's following stitch should be a front post double crochet, so we're going to half double crochet on top of that one. So skipping a total of 6 stitches from our previous row, because we just did 6 stitches for our cable stitch detail and our first front post double. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So into the following, insert with 1 half double crochet. Then we have 1 more stitch for our Alpine stitch detail, which should be a half double crochet from our previous Alpine stitch detail. So a front post double crochet will be worked into there. Don't forget to pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2. From here, we're going to continue to do our twist detail, Alpine stitch detail to reach the end of the row. So let's just do the next 2 sections together, starting with our twist detail. It's going to start with our dividing stitch always. So front post treble, into the twist, skip 1 stitch, then 1 front post treble crochet into each of the following 2. When these 2 stitches are completed, working back into that skip stitch, 1 front post treble into there. Now to complete this twist detail, our dividing stitch, which is always a front post treble crochet. Then to do our Alpine stitch detail, we are going to make sure that our stitches are staggered from our previous Alpine stitch detail. So since this first was a half double, we're going to start with a front post double. Now to do the half double crochet, we're going to be skipping 7 stitches because we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches done here. So here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 into the following with a half double crochet. Then to do the last stitch in our Alpine stitch detail, another front post double crochet. So pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2. Continue on with our twist, Alpine stitch detail to reach the end of the row, closing off the row with just 1 half double crochet into that last stitch. We are back and our row 5 is completed, and we did make sure to close off the row with 1 half double crochet into that last stitch. Now our even number row, row 6, is a single crochet row. So chain 1, flip, 1 single crochet into every stitch. We are back and our first 6 rows are completed. What we're going to do from here is repeat rows 3 through 6 until we get the height of the piece that we want. So let's just get the following row started and I'll let you do the rest on your own. We're all going to start with a chain 2 and flip and start with our twist. So like I said, every cable stitch row will be worked into our previous cable stitch row or our previous odd number row. So finding that first stitch from our previous cable stitch row, which is our row 5, always going to do our dividing stitch, which is a front post treble. Then to do our twist, we're going to skip 1 stitch, then 1 front post treble into the following 2. Those 2 stitches are completed. Now to do the twisty portion, we're going to do 1 front post treble back into that 1 skip stitch. Now that that twist is completed, our dividing stitch, which is a front post treble. Then our Alpine stitch detail. So skipping 5 stitches from our previous row, half double crochet into that next. Then our front post double. So into our previous Alpine stitch details, half double crochet, we're going to insert underneath, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2. Then skip 1 stitch from our previous row because that front post double counts as that stitch. Then 1 half double crochet into the next. and just continue to repeat this to reach the end of the row. Like I said, continue to repeat rows 3 through 6 until we now have a portion that reaches from where we'd like the bottom of this dress to be, keeping in mind that we will have a bottom band as well, so you can place this at mid-thigh, a little bit lower, a little bit higher, that's completely up to you, all the way up until we're roughly 1 inch beneath our underarm, because we are going to have a top band as well. I'll meet everyone back right after we complete a cable stitch row. We are back. I've just completed my cable stitch height. Now I have a total of 79 rows. This height is roughly 20.5 inches or 52 centimeters. Now we're going to work on the side panels. So from where we're at, we're all going to chain 1 and flip. So all we're going to do is put 1 single crochet into every side row that we have. So finding our first side row, this is mine right here. I'm going to insert with a single crochet. This is my falling, which is a side single crochet row. Find that top loop and insert with 1 and just continue with 1 single crochet into every side row. Now we should end up with the same amount of stitches as rows that we made for this cable stitch detail. Then at the end of the row, I will meet you back. Our single crochet row is complete. Now the following row is going to be a back loop slip stitch row. So chain 1 and flip. So finding the last stitch from our previous row, we're going to insert into that back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us. We're going to insert. Then when we have these 2 loops on our hook, we're going to yarn over and gently pull through both loops on our hook. We want to make sure that we're not tugging too tightly, otherwise the following row will be too tight to work into. So just to do the next one, into that next stitch's back loop, insert, yarn over, gently pull through everything on our hook, continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. Our back loop slip stitch row is complete. Now the following row is going to be a back loop half double crochet row, so chain 2 and flip. So just to do the first one, yarn over, into that last stitch from our previous row, insert into that back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3, and that's it. From here, continue with 1 back loop half into every stitch. So our back loop half double crochet row is completed. All we're going to do from here is continue to repeat our back loop slip, back loop half double crochet row, until this can stretch over, because this portion will have a decent amount of stretch to it, over to about mid-waist. Now this may seem small, but we are going to have a fill-in portion for the bust and for the hips as well, just to give us a little bit more width. But I'll meet everyone back right after a half double crochet row. So we're back and our side panel is complete. Now I have a total of 7 rows, and now this width is just about 2 inches or 5 centimeters unstretched, or my total width is 8.5 inches or 22 centimeters, also unstretched. Now from here, we're going to do the same thing on the other side, but this isn't reversible, so we do want to make sure that we're inserting our hook into the bottom corner stitch of our cable stitch detail, so the same end where our tail end is for our cable stitch detail. And then we just want to make sure that we're showing the front of the single crochet row, working down the side of our cable stitch detail. Then just repeat everything that we did here on this side for the same amount of rows. Once we have that, do a chain up 1 and cut, then I'll meet you back. So we are back. We have just completed the entirety of one of our panels. Now my total width is 10.5 inches or 27 centimeters unstretched. Now what we're going to do from here is make a second panel that is exactly the same with the side panels and everything. Once we have both of them completed, I'll meet everyone back so we can seam up the sides together. So we are back and we have just completed both of our panels and they were done exactly the same way. Now from here we're going to seam up the sides. Now for this portion, we're just going to seam up the tiniest portion of our side, then we're going to add more width for the bust portion and for the hips. So we're going to make sure that the middle of our cable stitch detail is placed at mid-chest, and also the top of our cable stitch detail still is roughly 1 inch underneath our underarm, because we are going to have a 1 inch top band as well. Now we do want to make sure that we're placing the first cable stitch row for both of our panels along the bottom. Then we're going to stretch this as if we're wearing it, and we're just going to pinch until we reach the edges of our waist. Then we're just going to pinch up until we can't pinch anymore, pinch down until we can't pinch anymore, and then we're going to insert our stitch markers into those stitches. Now as you can see, I have my stitch markers into these 2 stitches. Counting from the top, that is going to be into my 32nd stitch from the top and also my 37th stitch from the top. So from stitch marker to stitch marker for me, I only have 5 stitches in between. But if you guys have more stitches in between, that's completely fine, or less, that's completely fine as well. We basically just need a connecting point, and then we'll make the top half and the bottom half wider to make sure that it fits our body the best way it can. So once we have our stitch markers in a place, we're going to do our seam. I already have it done on this side, but just to show you guys what it's going to look like, it's going to be a tiny little connection using an outside loop slip stitch seam. So making sure that our work is flipped right side out, meaning the cable stitch details is faced out. On both sides, we're going to insert our hook into the outside loops of one of our stitch marker stitches. So inserting our hook into our first stitch marker stitch's front loop, or the loop that's nearest to us, and also into that other panel's stitch marker stitch, into the loop that's furthest away from us, then we're going to insert our yarn onto our hook. We're going to pull our working yarn through and do a chain up of 1 to secure, and now our outside loop slip stitch seam. So working towards our next stitch marker stitch, we're going to insert our hook into that front loop, into the front panel, then into the back panel, in through that back loop, yarn over, and pull through everything on our hook. Again, next stitch into the front panel, insert, next stitch into the back panel, insert, and pull through, and that's it. We're going to continue doing this until we're worked into our stitch marker stitch. Once we are, do a chain up 1 and cut, then repeat on the other side, then I'll meet you back. So we are back. We have just completed our seam along both sides. Now we're going to get started on the top half of our piece. So we're going to start by making sure that our work is still flipped right side out, right side up. Then we're going to take a look at our front panel. Now the front and back panel are actually going to be done exactly the same way, so just pick one of our panels to be the front. Then we're going to insert our hook into the top corner stitch of the back panel. Then we're going to start with our back loop slip stitch row, and we're doing that just to keep up with the ribbing. So inserting our hook into our back panel's top corner stitch, we're going to pull through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now just to make sure, we should be showing the back of our back loop slip stitch row. That's going to give us the same ribbing that we did for the side panel. So just finding that first stitch, we're going to insert our hook in through that back loop, yarn over, pull through everything. This is going to be pretty simple. From here, continue with just 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, and I'll meet everyone back when we're worked into our last available stitch right before our side seam. So we've just made our way down with our back loop slip stitches, and we're worked into that last available stitch right before our side seam. We're going to work into that side seam just with putting 1 single crochet into there, just so we have 1 middle stitch. So go ahead and insert your hook just into any loop that we have that's within the side seam, because it's not going to have an actual stitch for us to work into. So I'm just going to insert with 1 single crochet, and we do want to make sure that we're inserting a stitch marker into the top of that single crochet. Then from here, working our way up the front panel, 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. And as a really quick tip, we should have the same amount of stitches on both sides. So we've just completed our first back loop slip stitch row. Now from here, we're going to do our following back loop half double crochet row to keep up with this ribbing, so chain 2, flip our work. 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving 3 stitches right before our middle stitch marker stitch. Then I'll meet you back. So we've just made our way down with our back loop half double crochets. We have left our last 1, 2, 3 stitches before our middle stitch. Now we're going to do a decrease of 3 half double crochets. So starting with the yarn over, insert your hook into that following stitch, pull through, following stitch, pull through, and following stitch, which should be the stitch right before our middle stitch marker stitch, pull through. We should have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on our hook. From here, yarn over, pull through all 5. Then we are going to have 1 middle stitch into the top of that stitch marker stitch, which is just 1 back loop half double crochet. So yarn over into the top of that stitch, pull through 3, and don't forget to insert your stitch marker into the top of that middle stitch. Then working our way up the other side, we're going to start with a decrease of 3 back loop half doubles. So yarn over into that next available stitch, we're going to insert, pull through, next, pull through, next, pull through for 5 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through all 5, then complete the rest of the row with 1 back loop half into every stitch. So our second row is complete. Now we're going to do our following back loop slip stitch row. So chain 1, flip our work. Put 1 back loop slip into every stitch. Now I'll meet everyone back when we all have 3 stitches left right before our middle stitch marker stitch. So we've just made our way all the way down with our back loop slips, leaving 3 stitches right before our stitch marker. Now we're going to do a decrease of 3 back loop slips. So inserting our hook into that next stitch's back loop, pull through. Next stitch's back loop, pull through, and next stitch is back loop. When we have these 4 loops on our hook, yarn over and pull through all 4. And that is our decrease of 3 back loop slips. Now we're still going to have our 1 middle stitch, so into that stitch marker stitch, insert with just 1 back loop slip stitch. And don't forget to insert your stitch marker into the top of that middle stitch. Now we're going to complete the row with more back loop slip stitches, but working our way up, we're going to start with a decrease of 3 again. So into that first stitch's back loop, we're going to insert, pull through. Into that next stitch's back loop, pull through, then into that next stitch's back loop. When we have these 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 4, and that is our decrease. From here, continue with 1 back loop slip into the rest of our stitches. So we are back. Our first 3 rows for this top fill-in portion are complete. From here, what we're going to do is continue to repeat our 2 previous rows until we now have a portion that can stretch around our side and reach at about mid-underarm. But we do need to make sure that we're going to have another one of these on the other side as well. So just making sure that our cable stitch detail stays at mid-chest. Then I'll meet everyone back right after a half double crochet row so we can seam it up and do the other side together as well. So we are back. The top portion for our fill-in rows are completed. Now I just did a total of 4 rows. I ended right after a half double crochet row, and just counting this one side of our fill-in row is just about 1 inch or 2 centimeters. Now from here we're going to do the same exact outside loop slip stitch seam that we did for the sides. So just to talk you guys through it, making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, we're going to do our outside loop slip stitch seam to make it look another back loop slip stitch row until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up 1 and cut, then repeat everything we did here on the other side. So we are back. We have just completed seaming up both of our top fill-in portions. Now we're going to get started on our top band. So making sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, we're going to insert our hook into any one of the stitches that we have along the top of our piece. Once when our hook is into any one of our stitches or side rows along the top, we're going to pull our working yarn through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now I have a few side rows to work into first. All we're going to do is put 2 single crochets into every side half, 1 single crochet into every side slip. So my first side row is a side half double crochet row. I'm going to find that top loop and insert, starting with 1 single into that same side half double with 1. Then into my side slip, find that top loop and insert with just 1. From here, we're going to continue with 2 singles into every side half, 1 single into every side slip. Then once we reach the top of our cable and Alpine stitch detail, 1 single crochet into every stitch, making our way all the way around. Once we made our way all the way around, we're going to slip stitch into that chain space. Now as a really quick tip, this single crochet row will be as wide as this portion can stretch, so once it's completed, try your piece on. If it's a little too tight, we do some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, we do some stitches with a tighter grip. Then I'll meet you back. So we are back. Our single crochet row along the top is completed. Now we're all going to start right after we slip stitch into that chain space by making a chain the length that we like for the top band to be, and we have saved the space for just about 1 inch or 2 centimeters. So I'm going to start by making a chain 6. Now that we have our chain, we're all going to block off that last chain and do a chain 1. That chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Now we're going to slip stitch all the way down. So into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we're all going to insert with a slip stitch, remembering we still don't want to tug too tightly, otherwise the following row will be too tight to work into. Then just continue with 1 slip stitch into every chain. Our first slip stitch row is complete. Now we're going to connect it into the base. So just finding that next available stitch into the base, we're going to insert in through there with a slip stitch. Now that slip stitch doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that following stitch into the base. That slip stitch also doesn't count as a stitch, and flip our work. Then we're going to do back loop slip stitches all the way back down. So finding that last stitch from our previous row, not working into any of those slip stitches into the base, we're going to insert in through that back loop, yarn over, gently pull through everything, and from here continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. Then at the end of the row, chain 1, flip our work. 1 back loop slip into every stitch again, then I'll meet you back at the end of the row. So we are back. We have just completed our first 3 rows, and now we're going to connect it into the base. So just finding that next available stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch. That slip stitch doesn't count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then to work our way up to the following row, since we're here, slip stitch into that following stitch into the base, flip our work, and repeat. From here, we're going to continue to repeat our 2 previous rows with no increases, no decreases, making our way all the way around. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, I'll meet you back so we can seam everything up. We are back. We have just completed our back loop slip stitch rows. Now we're just going to seam it up, and the seam is actually going to be done exactly the same way as the fill-in portion and for our side seam as well. So just making sure that our work is slipped right side out, right side up. We're going to do our same outside loop slip stitch seam till we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Now getting started on the bottom fill-in portion. It's actually going to be done exactly the same way as the top portion. So we're just going to do our back loop slip stitch row, making sure that the back of our slip stitch row is shown to keep up with the ribbing. Then do the same half double, same slip stitch rows that we had for the top portion. Now we're going to continue on with those rows until this side fill-in portion can now pinch over to the side of our hips. Then once we have that, making sure we all end right after a half double crochet row, we're going to repeat on the other side. Then I'll meet everyone back so we can seam it up. So we are back and the bottom fill-in portion is complete. Now I just did a total of 8 rows counting from my first slip stitch row. Now just this portion right here is roughly 2 inches or 5 centimeters unstretched, and I did do our same outside loop slip stitch seam that we did for the side and for the top fill-in portion as well. I went ahead and repeated everything on the other side, and now that we have the entirety of our hips filled in, we're now ready to get started on the bottom band. Now that's going to be done pretty much the same way as the top band. So what we're going to do is first make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Insert our hook into any one of the side rows that we have along the bottom of our piece. Then do the same exact single crochet row that we did for the top band. Just making sure that when the single crochet row is completed, try your piece on. That single crochet row is going to be as wide as this portion can stretch. So try it on, making sure that everything still fits nicely. If it's a little too tight, you do some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, you do some stitches with a tighter grip. So now that we've made our way all the way around with our single crochet row for the bottom band, we're then going to do the same slip stitch rows that we did for the top band, just a little bit longer because this is the bottom. So right after we slip stitch into that chain space, we're all going to make a chain the length that we'd like for the bottom band to be. I'd like for mine to be about 4 inches or 10 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making chain 20. Then do our same exact back loop slip stitch rows, no increases, no decreases, making our way all the way around. Well, we don't have any more stitches left to work into. I'll meet you back so we can seam it up. So we've made our way all the way around with our bottom band, and now we're just going to seam it up. Now seaming this up is going to be done exactly the same way as all of our other seams, so just make sure that our work is right side out, right side up. Doing our outside loop slip stitch seam till we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. And when everything is all seamed up, we are all done. Last thing we have to do is simply weave in all of our ends. And there you have it, y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye.